Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge, hope you're all doing well. Look, lots to get into on the show tonight. Jadon Sancho will leave Manchester United in January. Quite a significant story about somebody that we haven't really spoken about for a few days, to be fair. Also, we're talking about Ten Hag in the future and why he will not change his philosophy and the club will keep backing him no matter how many games he loses. Also want to talk about Anana, and can I just give a big shout out to the call-in show. Absolutely love it. It was a bit of an impromptu one this afternoon. If you haven't watched it, give it a watch later. You calling in, having your say, really interesting after, you know, where United are at the moment. So make sure you give it a watch, and thanks to everyone who got involved in that fantastic show. I want to talk about Jadon Sancho, significant update coming in from Fabrizio. But first of all, we're sponsored by Manscaped. 20% off, free worldwide shipping with the code TUS. You know the story now. You got this for down here. Don't worry, I'm not naked from down there. Look, I've got my Scooby-Doo pants on. But that's the lawnmower for down there. Fantastic. Trim the grass to make the yard look bigger. Fantastic. Bit of kit. You got the weed whacker for up your nose. I'm not going anywhere near my nose today. It's very sore. I've got a bit of a cold, but brilliant for the old nasal hair. And then you've got the beard trimmer, which is absolutely fantastic. This is, look, just hear the power. I mean, I did it yesterday. I broke my record. 48 seconds, whole lot done. 48. It used to take me about 3 minutes. Absolutely brilliant bit of kit that is. The power is in your hand, as it always is. Links in the description for it. TUS is the code. 20% off, free worldwide shipping. Fantastic products, Manscaped. Thank you very much for sponsoring the show, as always. They really are fantastic. Go for the hat trick, but I would always say go for that. It's brilliant. Right, let's get into the show. So, this is coming in from Fabrizio. Jadon Sancho leaving Manchester United in January is being discussed internally. Now, that from Fabrizio does seem a little bit vague. There was a story yesterday coming in from Plettigol, I think it was, talking about Dortmund being very interested in a loan deal. Now, remember this morning on the morning show, I said exclusively, or whatever you want to call it, let's call it exclusively, Manchester United officially from the club are not looking at any sacking or even considering getting rid of Ten Hag. In fact, they're still looking at giving him a new contract. Within minutes of that, you had mainstream talking about it, radio talking about it. So, second bit of exclusive news today, Manchester United, Jadon Sancho, Ten Hag are seriously looking, basically he's gone in January. As things stand, he's gone. The only saving grace is this 3 months, but the way it is at the moment, Ten Hag is not moving on this, doesn't need him, doesn't want him, doesn't want him back involved. Jadon Sancho, not moving on this, doesn't want to be back involved, doesn't want to be here. The club are sort of, have you ever had two mates that really just don't like each other and you're sort of stuck in between? It's a bit like that. The club are a little bit stuck in between here because Ten Hag's like, don't want him back. Sancho's like, don't want to go back. And the club are sort of like, he cost us 75 million and he's on 300 grand a week. How the fucking hell are we going to get any money back for him? So the club are in a bit of a difficult position. But look, we've not been talking about Sancho and we've lost our last 2 games. The interesting thing for me is, as an observer, and it is obviously, you know, that's what we're here on the United Stand. It's an entertainment, observer, conversation, whatever you want to call it. Despite our bad performances and bad losses, not once did I look at those games and go, we need Jadon Sancho. And that's the problem, isn't it? You know, if it was Marcus Rashford who was on strike, or it was Casemiro or Bruno Fernandes, I'd be like, we bloody missed them. Even though they're not brilliant players for us at the moment, you'd still go, they've got a CV. The trouble with Sancho is, anybody who thinks we missed Sancho last night, you're doing it on a prediction. Like, he hasn't actually delivered in a United shirt at all. So that's the problem Sancho's got, is like, we're losing games and I'm still not going, we really miss Sancho. And that's a big problem, isn't it? That is a big problem because actually, my thought last night was, Garnacho should be starting. I wouldn't mind giving Pellistri a little bit of time. I think we should have brought Martial off the bench a bit sooner. Anthony probably isn't match fit, but we'd like to get him involved. There's no part of me thinking, we're losing games because Jadon Sancho's missing. And that is the big thing, because that's exactly what Ten Hag is thinking. He's looking at this team that's losing and he's not thinking, I need to get Sancho back involved. Don't worry about the apology, Jadon. You're back in the team against Brentford. He's out on the edge. And that's just the cold, harsh fact of where it is. What I will say is, in a hypothetical, and this might be controversial and some people might not like it, but here we go. What I would say is the Jadon Sancho I thought we were getting from Dortmund, with how much space there was on the pitch last night for Galatasaray and his ability to carry and pass and move, would have been very useful last night, but that Jadon Sancho hasn't transpired from Germany. So I can't look at that game last night and go, Sancho would have made a big difference. He would have probably misplaced the ball, got tackled, not tracked back. So no, I can't sit here and honestly say we miss Sancho. I think the ideal Sancho would be perfect, but we haven't seen that enough. Tashin says, who's going to replace Sancho or trust in Palestri and Ahmad? Says Tashin. Well, Ahmad's yet to come back, isn't he? It seems Faz has caused an uproar on Twitter because he mocked a creator for having anxiety, then blocked him twice. Will he apologise? Says Jason. Jason, how's about you grow up and keep me out of these things? It's got nothing to do with me. We're talking about Jadon Sancho. We're talking about Man United. I can't be arsed with people like that. Take it up with the people involved. It's got nothing to do with me, with Twitter arguments. I find them petty and silly. I'm not getting involved in it on a show like this tonight. Anyone wanting Sancho back at this point accepts mediocrity and player power. Stop being a joke and think of the team and not individuals, says Inquisition. Well, look, let me just say from the Jadon Sancho side of things, and I think it's really important here because I reckon there'll be a few of you thinking, yeah, this is great news, he's going to go. I think there'll be a few of you thinking, well, it's a bit unfair, I feel sorry for him. Let's be very, very clear here. Two sides to a story. People keep forgetting this. Jadon Sancho wants to go. He wants to go. He doesn't want to apologise. He wants to go. He thinks he's right. So, and I'm not, I said it this morning. I've always been quite adamant that some of the stuff that's been reported about Sancho around him being shy or arrogant or, noisy or quiet, who cares? Martial's had this for years. I couldn't give a toss about his, persona or his personality. That's not what we're judging here. I know legends of Man United who are complete twats off the pitch. So are they not legends anymore? Of course they're legends. So we're not here to digest and analyse whether somebody's a bit loud or quiet or shy or noisy or arrogant or timid. That's an irrelevance. Like that's not relevant here. But the second thing I was going to say about Sancho as well is that I also think he's right. In a certain element, I think he's right. Because when I look at it, I go, he probably should have been, in his, when I say he's right, he's actually wrong, but what I'm trying to say is, it's not like a witch hunt against Jadon Sancho. It's not like Jadon Sancho is evil, or Jadon Sancho is shit, or Jadon Sancho is completely in the wrong. I completely get what happened on that Sunday night. He's sat there, he's not been called up to the squad, so he's in a right bad mood anyway. He's watching the game. Eric Ten Hag does an interview saying that he's been lazy in training and that's why he's not there. And he's gone on Twitter. Because in his mind and in his head, he's like, well, I have trained well. And it wouldn't matter if I did train well because you wouldn't pick me anyway because you'd always pick in Rashford and Antony. So it wouldn't matter if I trained brilliant or shit. I've tried to train well. You still don't pick me. I train bad. You call me out. You wouldn't pick me anyway. And I think that's what happened with Sancho. I really do. I think he did the tweet because he was like, whether I train well or bad, you won't pick me anyway. So why are you saying, oh, I'm not here because I trained badly? Because you wouldn't pick me anyway because you've got your favourites. And I think that clearly was Sancho's mentality. And I don't think he's wrong to have that. Lots of players would have that. Where he went wrong is by tweeting about it. I absolutely agree that in his head, he probably feels that there are favourites and it doesn't matter what he does. He won't get his chance. But the public nature of his tweet was what has put him in the wrong. But when you understand where he's coming from, you'll understand that this is why he's not apologising. Because he's like, I ain't got anything to apologise for, I've took the tweet down. I shouldn't have done that. I'm not apologising for what I said because I mean it. And that is basically what's coming out of the rumour mill, is that Sancho has taken the tweet down because obviously he accepts that was wrong. But he's not apologising for what was in there because he genuinely believes that that's true. He genuinely believes that there is favouritism. He genuinely believes that he hasn't been given an opportunity. So that's where we are with it. And obviously, from Ten Hag's side, he is like, I am the manager. You've undermined me. And, you apologise or you're not back involved. So I can see the situation as it is. And as Fabrizio has said, and as was reported yesterday, he'll be gone in January. He'll be gone in January. I mean, for those who don't think he's going to be gone in January, what's going to change between now and January? If anything, the last few weeks was the opportunity to come back because Antony was suspended and we had a few injuries. Now that Antony's back, now that Mount's back, now that Bruno's been playing on the wing, now that Palestri's had a couple of starts, Garnacho, Rashford, how does he get back involved? There's not going to be a knock on the door from Ten Hag saying, I desperately need you to come back. And I don't think there's going to be a knock on Ten Hag's door from Sancho going, I'm really sorry, can I come back? Because, and I would agree with this as much as I don't agree with it. I do agree with it. And what I mean by that is that if Sancho hasn't apologised in 3 weeks, what's the point in him apologising now? Because he knows by looking at the squad, his chance was actually 2 weeks ago and he didn't apologise. So why apologise now when there's no way back? So I think what will happen is it will just carry on like it is till January, and then he will go on loan. And in a way, the last few days have actually been quite reasonable, haven't they? We haven't really heard from him. We haven't really heard from the club that much, and we just move on. But what I find interesting is how the media really don't focus on it. You know, if it's Harry Maguire, they'll ask 3 questions every day. If it's Marcus Rashford, they'll have 3 questions every day. But with Jadon Sancho, even the media don't go, when's he coming back? When's he coming back? And I think that's the sad thing for me, is that this is a player that's cost us a lot of money, that's on a good wage, that is currently fit, but suspended, or whatever you want to call it. And nobody's really going, we need him back. We need him back. And that's the most telling thing. I think that if the only shame is that the January transfer window isn't open now, because he's still only 23, still got a career ahead of him, and there just needs to be a parting of the ways. Julian Breaker, thank you very much for the super chat there. When a player jumps out of a 50-50 tackle, he should be gone. He reminds me of Dele Alli, a troubled person, says Bob the Cat. Well, look, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors, do we? We don't know what goes on behind closed doors, and maybe at some time there will be an interview, because everybody's got a story. But you know what I would always say about that? The Dele Alli interview was obviously very, very, very powerful. But in a footballing sense, taking all the emotion out, I always thought, if I was an Everton fan, you know, as heart-touching as it is and as powerful as it is, would I want him in my midfield for Everton? No. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having an explanation as to why your football career has floundered and the trauma that you've been through. But on the other hand, there's nothing wrong with me as a football fan saying, I don't want you to play for my team. It's not a charity, and you're not good enough. And I think that's sometimes where society goes wrong. The sympathy vote, isn't it? I don't think Dele Alli wants a sympathy vote. I think he just wants to try and get his head back into playing football. And whatever Jadon Sancho's issues are, I imagine it's the same. I don't think they need a sympathy vote. And that's what I was trying to say in a nice way, is that nobody's going, we need Jadon Sancho back. No matter what the issue is, nobody is. I mean, he had 3 months off last year. Didn't really miss him then, did we? It was nice to have him back, but we didn't. What about, do you think it's a clash of egos, Mark? I do. Mbappe's starting tonight. I'm doing a watch-along, Newcastle against PSG, 8 o'clock on That's Football. Can I just say as well, in relation to the VAR stuff, you might be interested in it, you might not. Oh my God, on That's Football, right at the start, I am going to drop the biggest mic you've ever seen on this. You know, Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher and all the media better run for the hills, because they are going to get sat down so hard with a vat of super glue they will never stand up again. I have got such an amazing take on the VAR stuff that's going to shut everybody up. And I don't normally blow my own bubble, but just you need to listen to that if you're interested. Anyway, back to this. Do I think it's all about ego? Yeah, of course it's about ego. And it has to be about ego. Every manager has to have an ego. Ten Hag can't lose this battle. And Sancho obviously doesn't want to back down. So it is where it is. It's a surprise. It was an embarrassment. It was a daily conversation a few weeks ago. But you know what? Like everything, it's settled down. And ultimately, everybody's losing. Sancho's losing. Manchester United are losing money. And January will resolve it. Somebody said, do you see any way back? For Man United? No. I don't know why I'm laughing about that. If you laugh, you don't cry. I don't see any... Do I see any way back for Jadon Sancho at Manchester United? Well, never say never. I mean, even with Ronaldo, I was hoping there was going to be a way back after he'd stormed off it, down the tunnel. I didn't think there was a way back after the Piers Morgan interview. If Jadon Sancho does a Piers Morgan interview, I don't think there's a way back. Do I think there's a way back? I deal in percentages here. I'd say I'm 80% sure. He was in the 90% club before. 80% sure he's gone in January. But there's always a 20%. Life's funny. Football's funny. You just don't know. But the thing is, I think for him to come back, there needs to be mediation, which the club have already tried. So I don't think that's going to happen. But for him to come back, I think he'd have to knock on Erik ten Hag's door, big bowl of fruit, and really kiss arse. Not properly kiss arse, but, really apologise and, say I'm going to work really hard. Then he'd have to work really hard, and then it would be January anyway. So I don't think he's got the time to turn it around, because I don't think if he apologised tomorrow, Ten Hag would put him in the team anyway. So I don't think there's a way back, but never say never. I actually think Sancho worked hard pre-season in the first few weeks. He looked fitter and sharper, but never got a start, so he had enough. You know what? I'm about to move on from this anyway, Robin, but you know what? You're absolutely correct. I do think that in pre-season he looked okay. I don't think he was brilliant, but I do think he looked okay. Sorry, United Way has said next topic, so I've got to move on to the next topic now. He is the boss of the chat, so let's move on to next topic. And Arvin says next topic as well. I'm ready to move on, don't worry. So the next thing I want to talk about, I really want to talk about Anana, but I just want to quickly say about this, that obviously this morning we were talking about how there is no plan to sack Ten Hag. There is not even a consideration that he's the wrong guy. I'm very happy about that, because I don't want Ten Hag to be sacked. I want the Glazers to go. But it worries me a little bit, because the reason that United don't want to do it is not because they believe in Ten Hag. It's not because they think he's the right man. It's because of how badly it reflects on them as individuals, on the board and in the recruitment department. But more importantly, it's how much it's going to cost them. Like, Man United are in huge trouble financially. They can't afford to sack a manager, go and poach another manager like a Nagelsmann or a De Zerbi, and then when they're doing the interview, a De Zerbi or a Nagelsmann would say to them, I can't be successful with these players, so what's my budget? And they haven't got a budget. Like, they had to loan Amrabat. So Man United can come out with all the statements they like about, we think Ten Hag's the right guy, he's the right man for the job. And whilst I agree with that as a fan, that's not really what United are doing. It's the same stuff they did with Solskjaer when he was getting beat 5-0 by Liverpool. We believe he's the right man, it's a process, it's a project. The bottom line is, they're not considering sacking Ten Hag because they can't afford to sack him. It's that's the truth. So, I mean, I'm happy that it basically provides the answer I want, but let's not pretend it's for the reasons we want. But secondary to that, one thing I was listening to the call in earlier, and I was spent quite a bit of time on social media today because I was doing a bit of travelling, and a lot of people are, Ten Hag's got to change it. He's got to change his plans. He's got to change his philosophy. Absolutely will not change his philosophy. I think if you're expecting a change in formation or a change in the core of his team, or, suddenly Maguire's going to come in and we're going to put Dele at left back and Lindelof at right back, and Amrabat's going to play in the midfield with Casemiro, and either Mount or Bruno will be on the bench, and Anthony will be on the right and Rashford on the left. This is not going to happen. He's not going to do it. And Huff says, what philosophy? Well, he's not going to change his philosophy. He's not going to change his goalkeeper. He's not going to drop Rashford. He's not going to play in a team that doesn't have Bruno and Mount in it. So that's something you've got to consider. How does that work? And I think that works by keeping Amrabat at left back, because Reguilon's not even back in training. So Reguilon's not playing against Brentford. So Amrabat probably left back again. It's going to be more of the same. And I don't think anything changes with United until we get a back four back. And when I say a back four, I mean a proper left back, right back and two centre backs. He ain't going to change things. He's not going to do what we wanted him to do. He's not going to find a way to put four defenders on the pitch so he can put Amrabat and have a bit of balance. He won't do it. He's not going to change his philosophy. He won't change Anana. He's not going to drop Rashford. He's going to keep playing Bruno and Mount, and he'll put Amrabat at left back, because then he can play Bruno and Mount in the midfield and put Anthony back on the right wing. So he's not going to change. Now, do you think that's right? Do you think that's wrong? I mean, obviously, I think it's wrong because I wouldn't do it, but then I think it's right because he's the manager and he has to be allowed to manage. Yeah, short, quick answer, I suppose. I don't see a change in what he's trying to do. I think he's going to keep going, and I think that. I mean, we're not previewing Brentford until tomorrow night, but even if we beat Brentford and Sheffield United, which is our next two games in the Premier League, I don't. I mean, I was looking at this today actually. Manchester United's next few fixtures, and while some people would be like, oh, we're going to lose them all, that's incredibly stupid. But if you look at Manchester United and you look at the league table at the moment, we are currently, and I'll probably be able to Well, here we go. Here we go. I'll put it up on the screen for you. So Manchester United league table at the moment for you, so you can see what I'm looking at. 10th place, yeah. So we're currently 7 points off Liverpool in 4th place, and Liverpool are way better than us. So we're 8 points off Spurs, which is probably the only team in the top 4 I think we could pray to catch. It's not going to happen, is it? It's not going to happen. 8-point gap means 3 wins, and they've got to lose 2 and win 1 just for us to be level. But it's just not going to happen, is it? It's just not going to happen. We're not going to close that gap. In fact, the gap's probably going to get bigger. Our next few fixtures are Brentford at home, Sheffield United away, and in the league, and then Man City at home. After that, you've got Fulham away, Luton at home, Everton away, and then you've got Newcastle away, Chelsea at home, Bournemouth away, and then Liverpool away just before Christmas, before we play West Ham and Villa. I mean, if we had any semblance of form, I honestly think you'd go, the problem is, though, we didn't beat Crystal Palace, and that was 3 points on a plate. So you got Brentford. We can't do this anymore, but Brentford, that should be a win. Sheffield United, that should be a win, but we can't do this anymore. Man City, Manchester Derby, make a wish, might happen, but probably won't. Fulham away, should win, but you never know. Luton at home, fucking hell, we better win. Everton away, well, we should be winning. But so realistically, out of our next 6 Premier League games, we should win 5 of them. And then if you win 5 of them, we're not in a terrible position, 24 points. We still wouldn't be anywhere near top 4, I don't think. Spurs have got a good run of games, and Villa have got a good run of games coming up. But there is a way back for Manchester United, and I suppose if we won 5 of our next 6, people would say, well, that's very, very good. But I don't. Well, obviously, I do think it's good, but I also don't think it's going to be helpful because, bottom line, 5 wins from 6, and then you've got to play Liverpool and Newcastle and West Ham away, and I don't think we win any of them games. So even if we win 5 of the next 6 and get to 24 points, I still think everybody above us will be around 30, and then we'll lose a few more, and they'll go back to being 7-8 points ahead. That's how a Premier League season works. It's not about your next 6 games, it's about your next 12 games. And I look at the next 12 games, and I think we'll do well to win 6. So I don't see a way back for Manchester United in relation to credibility in the Premier League. Champions League, lost 2, going to lose to Bayern at home, 3, could beat Copenhagen home and away, and would have to win against Galatasaray. We'd be very lucky if 9 points gets us through. Probably puts us in the Europa League, so probably out of the Champions League as well, which means the FA Cup and the Europa League become absolutely essential to us, neither of which qualify us for the Champions League. We may be dropping into the Europa League needing to win it. Keep your Thursdays free in 2024. That's all I'm saying. One way or another, whether it's in the autumn or the spring, that's where we might be. Hi, Mark. Can you get the Glazers out, please? Please, there must be a way, says Ian Hobbs. I wish I could. What do you think about Anana, Mark? Look, in relation to Anana, honestly, I think there's been a lot of things said, and it amazes me. Remember the traffic light system that I like to bring up every now and again? You've got red for stop, you've got green for go, and you've got amber, which is in the middle. Get ready to go, get ready to stop. With Anana, I'm in the amber. I don't think he's shit and we need to get rid of him, and I don't think he's brilliant and he's the answer. I'm in the middle. I'm amber with Anana. But I support him because he's the goalkeeper and I want him to do well. I think a lot of people think that, look, we've got the Christmas party coming up in Manchester. The tickets are in the video description. They're live in the live chat. Get them while you can. It's going to be a fantastic evening. They went on public sale today. Can't wait to see you all there. And I will be in the bar before. I've never done that before, but I will be in the bar before this time. So get your tickets. Ricky will be there, Beth, everybody. When we put the tweet out today, I replied to it and said, and just before anybody starts joking, Anana won't be giving out free gifts at the Christmas party. And somebody replied, oh, here's the hate again from Goldbridge. And I was like, for one, it was a joke. And for two, I bet that other people played that joke. And for three, if you don't joke, you'll cry. Now, cold, harsh facts, Anana has been shite. Call it what it is. He knows it. He's already apologised once. You know, if he has to, at the end of the day, if we're not careful, we'll start calling him PGMOL because he'll be apologising as much as they are. So look, Anana knows he's not doing very well. I know he's not doing very well. You know he's not doing very well. But on the other hand, David De Gea didn't do very well when he first started at United. All right, he might be the next Barthez, but he might be the next De Gea. He might just take a bit of time to settle and then be the goalkeeper I think he can be. Criticism is important. He isn't playing very, very well. But I'm not going to change my stance on Anana just because I don't think we should have got rid of De Gea. When De Gea was treated like shit, I didn't like it. But even when that was all going on, I did say it's not Anana's fault, and I do think he's a really good goalkeeper. For me, he's box office. Look, most people only watched him for the first time in the Champions League final, but what a game to watch him, and he was brilliant. But he is a good goalkeeper. Now, whether he can be a good goalkeeper for Manchester United or not, I don't know, but let's hope he can be. At the moment, he reminds me of a Norwich goalkeeper. It just doesn't look like he'd stop anything. I don't think he could stop a balloon. I think he looks rubbish. But I do agree with Ten Hag keeping on picking him. Because the minute he drops him, I think you're almost saying, I've made a mistake. And you've got to back your number one goalkeeper. And Ten Hag has to stick by him. I stick by him, but I stick by Bruno. I think Bruno's a fantastic player, but he's not playing very, very well. I like Rashford. He's not playing very well. These players have to be called out when they're not doing their job. Yes, the shirt weighs heavy, but it's a big shirt to wear. It's Manchester United. So, look, I do want to make it very, very clear that I'm not against Anana. And I don't think a lot of people are. I just think they're calling him out and saying, I think the main thing is, a lot of people just didn't realise the enormity of the job of being Man United's number one and how much pressure and concentration it takes. It's one thing to do it for Ajax. It's one thing to do it for Anana. It's for Inter. It's one thing to do it for your country. But Man United has swallowed up so many goalkeepers. And it's not because we're the best team in the world. That's not the case. We haven't been the best team in the world for a long time. But there's just something about that Manchester United goalkeeping shirt that can swallow up and destroy even the best goalkeepers. So, look, we've got to stick with him and hope that he comes through it. That's my stance on it. Mark, doesn't fifth get you into the Champions League next year, says Fitz? It probably would get us into fifth. It depends on the coefficients. I think 5 out of the last 6 years, we would have got fifth place based on the new rules on how well we've done in Europe. But on the other hand, it really depends. It's the top 2 leagues in Europe who do well in Europe. So if Man City and Arsenal and Man United and Newcastle all get knocked out in the group stage, we won't be in the top 2 coefficients and therefore fifth place won't work. So for fifth place to work, you need all the English teams to do well in the tournaments they're in, whether it's Brighton in the Conference League, Villa in the Conference League, Liverpool in the Europa League, Man United aren't doing that well, are they? So it all comes down to that. That means that we could get fifth. But it's all if, buts and maybes. And I don't really think fifth place should get Europa League, Champions League anyway. So I don't think we'll get fifth. Do you think we'll get fifth? I don't think we'll get fifth anyway. I really don't. I think that if I look at that league table at the moment, top 4 is... I don't know who will be in the top 4. I think Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City. I don't know whether it will be Tottenham, Villa or Brighton, but maybe Newcastle will jump in there as well. People aren't remembering Newcastle. Like, Newcastle aren't in the top 6 at the moment. I still think they could come into it. All right, you might think Spurs or Villa might drop away, or Brighton, but Newcastle could come through. So I don't see United in the top 5 this season. I just don't see it. Jarvis says we'll get top 4, it's early days. We would need a massively consistent turnaround, and we're already at the point, Jarvis, where we would need 3 or 4 teams above us to really have a crap second half of the season. And I know we're not even halfway through yet, but we've only played 7 games. There's 31 games to go, so it is very early days. Of course it is, but I still think that just the way things are going at the moment and the way other teams are playing, I just can't see it. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. I'm going to be over on That's Football because I'm going to be live over on That's Football in literally 10 minutes time. So I just want to go and grab a quick hot drink because I've got a bit of a cold. Newcastle against PSG watch along. But even if you're not going to watch that game, make sure you watch the first 2-3 minutes of That's Football because I'm going to sit the world down about this VAR stuff. Nobody's thought about it. It's going to make you think something very, very different about it. Gary Neville and co are going to look absolute prats. Make sure you tune in 10 minutes. Thanks everyone for watching tonight. We'll be back tomorrow with the 10 o'clock show. Thursday tomorrow, preview as well. Lots going on. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. And I'll see you over on That's Football in a minute.